DNA. I'm Dearna Nori.
And I'm Aldo Canepa, where we hope to bring you all the latest in all of SCV sports. But first, one of the biggest contracts in all of sports history has been signed by Giancarlo Stanton of the Miami Marlins. It spans over 13 years and is worth $325 million. It's one of the biggest in all of sports history. It's amazing how they were able to get this done.
And he does have an opt-out clause after 5 seasons where Miami would only have to pay him $170 million. So that's a big chunk of his contract cut in half.
Definitely. It's one of those things where, you know, it's whether, to me personally, it's whether or not if the team is going in a certain direction, he can leave if he doesn't like it. So if the team is still failing to bring in the players to win that World Series title, it's for him to leave the team and go to a different team. He finished second in MVP voting in the National League. He's a phenomenal player, and that's why they gave him all this money. He deserves it. He really does.
And the deal is structured, in my opinion, to build a team around him. So he has that cap, Miami has that cap. If they want to pay other players a higher salary, so it can really bring them championships.
Hopefully, that's the plan. Miami, I think, really did a good job in dealing with this contract. Giancarlo Stanton, once again, you know, he is a player to build around. He is one of those players that, you know, he can provide you wins, he can provide you the victories, and therefore, they decided to structure this contract over him. So we'll see what happens with that.
But another thing, what does it mean for Miami? And also, he got hit in the face, and that was a huge thing. And is there going to be psychologically problems with that?
No, I doubt it. You know, after he got hit in the face, he came back, he bounced back, he'll be fine. Miami will be fine. I think, you know, they've had a string of bad seasons. They're bound to have a good one sooner or later.
Well, we'll see if they win championships.
Hopefully.
And in COC sports, we have a lot of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff did go on, yes. I think I'll start with women's soccer. Women's soccer just clinched their 4th straight Western States Conference, title versus Citrus, but only saw 1 goal. And that's really what defined this season. Defense wins championships. You know, they come off their 5th straight victory with shutouts. You know, in their last 10 games, they won 9 out of the 10. So.
And that goal was scored the last 58 minutes of the game.
Yeah, so like I said, it really shows that their defense is really what winning this championship. You know, consistent shutouts. What a phenomenal season. Congratulations to the girls.
And women's volleyball at COC, they won their 2nd straight conference champs in a row. So it's their 2nd title that they've won in conference. And they actually have a game coming up at home. It's their last conference game of the season, and hopefully people will go to that and support them.
Yeah, definitely. The girls did a good job, you know, coming off this win versus Bakersfield, won all 3 straight sets, you know, no problem. Won it by 10 points or more. They're just a really good team, very dominant.
They're solid.
Yeah, very solid team.
And then another COC women's sport is golf. They were runners-up at the state championship.
Yeah, they fell behind by 3 strokes. They fell behind early in the first round, but, you know, they tried to make that comeback, but unfortunately couldn't do it. But really good job to the girls, only down by 3 strokes, you know.
176 overall. And Tiffany Whittaker, she shot a 77, and she's all-state honoree, so that's really good for her.
No, definitely. Good job for Cougar Sports. You know, it's just good to see, you know, titles coming in, so hopefully they can bring it even further.
And golf, the women's golf, that was the first time they've won since 2010, so kudos to
the
Coach
girls.
Petersen. Men's soccer, what's going on with that?
Oh, men's soccer. So, yeah, so they had a good season, 10-win season, but unfortunately failed to make the postseason. They lost last week. You know, they went down 3-0 early, couldn't come back. So, unfortunately for the men's, they couldn't do what the women did and make the playoffs.
Speaking of, unfortunately, with the men, COC football had their last conference game last week, and they lost.
Oh, yeah, they lost 27-21 in a heartbreaking game. You know, it was back and forth between Cerritos and, you know, Tony Dawson. He went, you know, 10 for 19, 90 yards, 1 touchdown. You know, Tim White, obviously, you know, 71 yards and 1 touchdown, but, you know, back and forth game, very low scoring game, just a heartbreaker, couldn't win it.
And Tony Dawson was actually injured that game. In the 4th quarter, he injured his hand, but he still went back out and he just iced it up. He was shaking it off, couldn't take it, and he told Isenda, I'm ready, and they put him back in.
Well, yeah, I mean, he has 67 yards on the ground and another touchdown there, so it just proves how good, how talented of an athlete he is. That's why he won, you know, you know.
First team all-conference.
Yeah, first team all-conference last year. So, you know, unfortunately, it was just a bad season for the Cougars this season.
Well, having only pretty much 12 sophomores doesn't help either.
No,
so hopefully a lot of those players come back, and next season they're going to take over the game.
Hopefully.
Coming up after the break, we sit down with Matt Robinson and we speak about local sports rivalries.
Are you still looking for your school? College of the Canyons is located on scenic rolling hills with competitive programs such as new media journalism, state-of-the-art sports facilities, and a culinary arts program that will be opening their brand new building with 3 state-of-the-art test kitchens. At only $46 a unit, you will discover that COC is the community college for you. Find out more at www.canyons.edu.
Hey, this is T-Boz at TLC.
This is Batman.
I'm Michael C. Morona.
And I'm Danny Tamarelli.
Hi, this is Ming Chen.
This is Mike Zapsik.
Hi, it's Louis Anderson.
I'm Weird Al.
I'm Florence Henderson.
You're watching.
And 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 you lucky people are watching
Cougar News.
Cougar News.
Cougar News.
Cougar News.
Cougar News.
You're watching Cougar News.
and I'm a cougar.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back from the break. With me now is Matt Robinson. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We have some big rivalries going on in Santa Clarita.
We
have
were-
been for a while.
We have been. It's, you know, we've got some rivalries going on, and that's something we're going to talk about, is what the biggest rivalry is in the Santa Clarita Valley right now.
Biggest or oldest?
No. Oldest one is Hart and Valencia by far. I mean, Hart and Canyon by far. I mean, the two schools have been around the longest, essentially. But right now, if you look, and I'm going to take this a different route. I know you were going to want to talk about football with it, and definitely right now, Hart and Valencia, the biggest rivalry in football, as those two squads seem to have the better of the recruiting and ability to get players to come into their schools and play for their schools. And that's what's creating a lot of that problem, is those schools are starting to be the better schools and really creating that situation where they're winning a lot of the football games. But if you look at it, I think the rivalries actually change quite a bit, Darian, as you go through sport to sport. Okay? Yeah, Valencia's and Hart's football teams, by far the better of the two teams. But if you look at basketball, Canyon's basketball.
Not only that, but this season we had rivalries with Hart and Valencia with their girls volleyball team.
Girls volleyball teams.
They were neck and neck this year.
And I think that's the thing, is you look at the different sports, and the different sports create different rivalries. You know, Canyon's basketball team is a very good basketball team. They always compete with Valencia, who's got a very good squad.
Right.
West Ranch has a very, very good baseball team, very good golf program. So I think as far as rivalries go in the Santa Clarita Valley, they really change from sport to sport. In terms of football, like we said, it is Valencia and Hart right now. And that comes down to them having the better players. J.J. Wilson's, Brady White's, Trent Irwin's. Those guys are good, solid football players.
But that's just this season.
That's just this season.
Right.
You're exactly right. And I think things are going to change if you look at down the road. Canyon High School has a very good sophomore quarterback in Miles Fallen.
Yes, but I mean, a good quarterback does not make up of a whole football team. You have to have a solid athletic program, and that's where I think that Valencia Hart have come up, and their athletic program is well-rounded. They have great support system, which a lot of teams out here don't. They do not have a great support system. Take Golden Valley, for example. How many coaches have they gone through, and they still have not won?
Well, and I think you have to remember, too, West Ranch, Golden Valley, both open enrollment schools right now because of the fact that they have to fill their enrollment quotas. So that creates some of the problem. Valencia still gets the kids that are from Valencia. Hart still gets the kids that are from Hart.
Supposedly.
Well, yes. There's, you know, little rumors here and there that we can't talk about and can't discuss because we don't know the truth about them. You're very much right. But if you look, and this is what I would say. I'm a Canyon grad. I make no bones about it. I graduated from Canyon High School, played 4 years of baseball for the high school program. Canyon loses a lot of their athletes to Golden Valley because of the fact that they're allowed to enroll at Golden Valley, or they need to enroll at Golden Valley.
But think about it. If you were an athlete, and let's say for football, if you were an athlete for football and you were a star quarterback, if you had the choice, where would you go?
Well, I mean, you can't open enroll. You have to. The only place you can open enroll.
If Golden Valley was an
Golden
option,
Valley and
would
West
you
Ranch.
go to Golden Valley?
Not right now.
For football,
Currently,
no,
not
you
right now
wouldn't.
for football. No, I'd want to go to Hart. I'd want to go to Valencia at the moment. But at the same time, West Ranch needs to get into that mix a little bit because they are an open enrollment school. And you're going to see some problems from West Ranch in the next couple of years because of Castex High School opening up. They're going to start to lose some of that because Castex is going to have those schools that come in, or those kids that come in and say, I don't want to go to West Ranch. I don't want to go to Valencia. I don't want to go to Hart. I'm going to go to the new school in Castaic and start afresh.
That's where I think a lot of programs out here, athletic programs, are dumbing down because there's so many schools for the children to pick from, not only the children, but their parents. And
that's where it comes down. It's the parents that are picking. It's not necessarily the kids that pick. It's the parents that pick.
But I know, I know a student who went to a school out here. One of the schools, a high school for football. And they didn't want to go there, so they transferred the family moved to another high school out here, a rival, just because the child did not want to play football for that team.
I mean, that's something that you've been dealing with. We've been dealing with this since I was in high school. And I graduated like in '04, so it's been a long, long time since I was in high school.
And that is exactly
but that
when
was
the
something that happened then.
Valencia rivalry started.
Yeah, because kids are transferring and moving, and parents are moving their kids. Moving houses. If that's the parents' prerogative, that's fine. I mean, that's what they want to do. They want to move houses. They want to decide, we're going to pick our kid up and move him from the Saugus area and put him in the Valencia district or put him in the Hart district so he can go play for Harrington at Hart, or he can go play for the Valencia program, who's a very good program. And you're seeing that, like I said, with all the high school sports, where they're starting to, one school has the better of the sports in a certain spot. Like I said, Canyon's basketball team, very good. West Ranch, very good baseball team every year. Valencia, I think you're going to see some drop off in a few of their sports, especially baseball.
So
they've always been a very good baseball program, but with Schneider being relieved of his duties, that's going to change that program.
But what does that mean for the athletes? Think if you're a star player, if you're a star on the star roster for golf, and you go to West Ranch, would you leave and would you go somewhere else?
Well, no.
Or if you're at Golden Valley and you're on the girls golf team, and you aren't going to get recognized, would you transfer to another school?
Well, and that's the thing is West Ranch right now. If you look at West Ranch, you're talking about golf. Like, we'll just stay with golf for example. West Ranch has a very good golf program, and they're an open enrollment school, so that you don't even have to live in West Ranch's area to go to that school.
Right.
You can live in Acton, for example, and go to West Ranch, since they are an open enrollment school. So that's what creates that situation where you have that good West Ranch golf squad who they can bring those kids in. They're almost like an Oaks Christian, an Alamany, a Bishop Amat, a school a Trinity, a school that can kind of recruit kids in and say, not recruit. When I say recruit, you put that in quotes. It's kind of like, they can kind of call the kid up and say, hey, we're open enrollment. You should enroll here. Where it's not necessarily, but that's what creates some of that issue. And like I said, with the parents moving, that's on the parents. I can't imagine, now I don't have a child, so I can't speak for parents. I can't imagine picking my kid up and moving him just to go play sports at a different school. I was always brought up, and this is just my personal philosophy, I was always brought up with, you go to the school you go to, you have pride playing for that school, and you want to make that school the best school you possibly can. Yeah, you want to win, and I went through a lot of losing seasons at Canyon High School, and I went through some winning seasons.
But that has to do a lot with you want to go to a team and you want to win. That has to do with the support system that the school brings upon itself. Which Golden Valley, how are they going to win anything if their support system is not there?
I think that Golden Valley, if you want to touch on Golden Valley, it's going to be very tough for them, especially in the football ranks, because of the fact that you're basically taking Canyon and you're splitting their school off.
Right.
Because half of them go to Golden Valley. So you look at some of those kids that played for Golden Valley, Victor Corona, their quarterback, would have played at Canyon High School. Would have been a good Canyon High School quarterback. Would have helped that squad because
and then
he's
where does the rivalry come from? If he lives in Canyon country but goes to Golden Valley, how is there a rivalry to say that upon each other?
It's really not, and that's why you look at the rivalries and you look at Canyon Hart. Canyon Hart's always going to be a rivalry, no matter what those schools are doing in football.
Well, started from the ground up.
It's the first two schools in the Santa Clarita Valley.
Exactly, so they've always been competing with each
other.
other.
Sports, it just comes down to who is good, and it's cyclical too. It changes. There's going to be years where, and I honestly think Hart's going to kind of have a down year next year in football. I think Valencia is going to struggle a little bit too because they're losing a lot of their seniors, and these are seniors that have been starting for 3-4 years at a time. Whereas, you've got some of the other schools that have sophomores that are starting to move up. And that's what I said. It's very cyclical in it. It's going to change. Sometimes we're going to have some teams that are going to be loaded with seniors. Sometimes you're going to have a team that's loaded with sophomores.
But that's where I think it comes down to coaching staff. It comes down to if they can bring up leaders on their squad who were sophomores or juniors this season, next year coming up. I think that's going to be a big problem, and we're going to see if coaches step up and take initiative to bring up their players and pretty much mold them into being winners.
Well, and that creates some of it. You're absolutely right. Is you've got to have the coaching staff that's going to be able to come in and do what they need to do to get those guys in.
Not only be consistent, coaching staff to be consistent.
Well, and that's I think the thing we were talking about Golden Valley. Their coaching staff is in a much better position than it ever has been as a coaching staff. The guy that's in there now is doing a good job in football. He's keeping that team together. That group is moving up. They're becoming a team together.
They had a bunch of close games this season.
And I've heard a rumor that they're going to be not in the Foothill League anymore next season. They're going to have to go and play in the Palmdale League, which I hope is not the case, because the entire reason why Golden Valley and West Ranch were brought in were because of the fact that we
Right.
wanted to have an all Santa Clarita Valley League.
Right.
So let's hope that stays that way. And I think that Golden Valley is continuing to get better. And you're going to start to see them start to create some rivalries with Canyon. You know, Canyon's still always going to have that rivalry with Valencia and Hart. Hart's
Right.
going to have that rivalry with Valencia and Saugus and Canyon. And,
But
you know,
where
everybody has a rivalry with Hart.
West
It seems
Ranch
like.
play into this?
I think
Where does
West
Saugus
Ranch-
play into this?
I think
Where,
Saugus, I think you underestimate Saugus. Saugus has a very good rivalry with Canyon High School. They have for years. Saugus has a good rivalry with Valencia. The 4 original schools all are very deep in their rivalries because of the fact that they were the 4 schools, you know, Canyon, Hart, Saugus, and Valencia.
I
The
just
4
feel like
original schools.
athletically wise, Saugus can't keep up with Hart or Valencia.
Right now, maybe, and like I said, cyclical. It's going to turn around. I mean, you look at athletics in different areas. Saugus, very good track cross country program, always, every year, always one of the top programs in that situation. So they keep getting better, and that's where they're getting better. And if they can find a way to keep some of those kids in their valley, in their district for football, for baseball, and you know, you look at their softball team's always
Right.
very good every year.
Right.
You know, their soccer teams are always very well coached every year. If you can start to create some of those rivalries in those areas, then I think it starts to trickle down to the other sports, or move up to the other sports.
So what do you think is a huge rivalry in the Santa Clarita Valley?
Well, the biggest one right now is Valencia Hart, and that comes down to football. Football drives the Santa Clarita Valley, so I mean that's the biggest one we've got.
And where do you think J.J. Wilson's going to play out in all of this next season? Because that game, he carried Valencia for the fourth quarter. Who's going to carry the team next year?
And that's the thing, is I think Valencia is going to have a tough time next year, is because they're going to have to find guys to fill roles like Cole Parkinson and J.J.
Right.
Wilson. It's not just J.J.
Right.
Even though J.J. is the guy they give the ball to the whole time, I think Cole Parkinson's a big deal, and he's going off to college as well. You know, he's getting to that point. So it really comes down to, and I think you're going to see Hart struggle a little bit too, because they're losing Brady White, Trent Irwin. You know, those guys are big guys in their offensive unit. I mean, it's going to be crazy.
And it's going to be really interesting to see where Trent goes, if he's going to follow Brady White. And did you know that J.J. Wilson did get an offer from ASU?
ASU as well, yes.
Right, so that'll be definitely very interesting to see if they all play out, and
We'll
what
see
if
where
they
they all
do
go.
end up going to the same school.
That would be pretty funny. I
Right.
mean, all guys, rivalry guys going to the same school. So.
Right. It'll be definitely interesting to see. And thanks, guys. Coming back, we'll bring in Aldo Canepa.
When you're in the mood for endless Italian dishes, Vincenzo's Pizza is your one-stop shop.
From their hand-tossed thin crust pizzas
to their meaty Chicago dogs and their toasty sandwiches,
to their creamy chicken Alfredo pasta. I love their chicken Alfredo pasta.
Vincenzo's new haul has exactly what your appetite desires.
With fresh ingredients, 12 cold beers on tap, and live entertainment on the weekend, you will not be disappointed.
Vincenzo's Pizza, inch for inch, the best pizza in the Santa Clarita Valley.
Habitat for Heroes.
Really, it's a story about people.
Letting people see that they're not alone, they're not isolated. We're here to help.
And we need to work on behalf of our veterans.
Then we can really change that veteran's ability to reintegrate into the community.
Habitat for Heroes is not just rebuilding homes, but it's rebuilding lives.
And that's the message we want to get across.
Get involved. Visit habitatscv.org and find out how you can help.
Knock out cancer! You're watching Cougar News!
Welcome back from the break. With us now, as always, is Matt Robinson for the best and worst of the week. What do you got for us, Matt?
Well, our first best of the week, Valencia High School girls tennis won the first ever CIF Southern Section Championship for the Santa Clarita Valley. And really, it was a total team effort. It came down to the doubles at the end. They had to come from behind to get their victory. And really, just a huge accomplishment, as the tennis teams have never really done very well in the Santa Clarita Valley. And this is the first ever CIF Southern Section Championship. So congratulations to the Valencia High School girls tennis team, as they did a wonderful job on that.
It's funny how you mentioned it came down to the doubles. I played doubles, varsity for 4 years of high school, and it always came down to the doubles, but no one really recognizes that. So it's really cool that you brought that up.
Okay,
hits home.
All right.
What do you got for the worst?
Worst of the week is it's high school football. Foothill League football was just, they didn't have a very good week. I mean, Hart wins, yeah, they move on, but they got a tough week against Upland this week.
They did.
Valencia losing to the number 3 baseline team in Rancho Cucamonga, something that nobody thought was going to happen.
Right.
Valencia, a very good football team, as you guys both know, well aware, and they lose to Rancho Cucamonga. And then Canyon just getting blown out of the water by Vista Marietta. Kyle Williams, the quarterback for Vista Marietta, had something like 400 yards in the first half. It was ridiculous. Didn't even play the second half. So, I mean, just
I was at the Hart game, and we were checking Twitter feeds from the Canyon and Valencia game, and just looking during halftime, and both teams were getting blown out of the water.
I did the same thing. I was on the air for Valencia Flyers hockey, and I was doing the same thing.
I was like, "What is this right? Are these scores right?" It was a shocker. I couldn't believe Valencia lost.
Definitely Valencia. That's the biggest shock of the week, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we have going on with CIF?
We're going to talk about some CIF football now. I mean, we got the playoffs still coming up.
Right.
Lots of matchups still going on. I mean, you've got Upland still playing, Vista Marietta playing, Mission Viejo playing. Hart still in there as well. And we'll talk Hart first. Upland, very tough game for Hart. Upland, a very good football team.
Right.
Have one of the best ranked quarterbacks in the state of California.
Yeah, Tyler Haniski.
He's a very good quarterback. He's got some ridiculous amounts of yards. Something like, I think he's got
he threw like 300
last
game.
He
had like 300 yards last game.
Last game versus, they won 42-7 last game, and then he threw 294 yards.
Upland's going to be a very tough team. Hart, I think, is going to have some trouble with them. Brady White, Trent Irwin, Nelson James, obviously the guys that run the show for Hart.
Right.
I think those three are going to struggle. I mean, everybody talks about Upland's offense. Upland's defense is incredible. They've only allowed 4 touchdowns.
They're just a well-rounded team.
They are. They've only allowed 4 touchdowns twice this season. Everybody's, and those 2 games they allowed 4 touchdowns. 2 really good teams, Tesoro and Mater Dei. Both teams are incredible teams. Tesoro's in the playoffs. They're another team we're going to talk about. They're out of that crazy South Coast Division. 5 teams out of the South Coast Division made the playoffs. Tesoro, Mission Viejo, El Toro all won their games last week. All going to move on and play in their rounds. And I think the squad to really look at out of that group is Mission Viejo.
You're right.
Mission Viejo, 9 straight victories coming into the season. They lost their first 2 games of the year. They lost to Liberty from Bakersfield, and they lost another game to Oceanside. Oceanside 10-0. I mean, ridiculous in San Diego, 10-0 Oceanside. And they go on and they win 9 games coming into this game this weekend. So they're looking for their 10th straight victory. I think they're going to pick up that win as they have a matchup against Rancho Cucamonga, who big time upset over Hart. Valencia, excuse me. And that's going to be, Rancho Cucamonga is going to be on such a high. They're going to be so excited. Oh, we're fired up. We beat Valencia.
They're going to be on a lot of momentum, carried from last week.
I think, though, that they're going to kind of come down off that high. They're playing a very, very good Mission Viejo team, and they played a near perfect game last week against Valencia.
You
need to have it again.
I think it'll be a definite reality check playing this team.
And I think the best game of the weekend is actually going to be Mission Viejo Tesoro. The 2 very good, not Mission Viejo, excuse me, Vista Marietta and Tesoro. 2 very good football teams. They've played each other a couple times already, like a couple common opponents already this year, and 2 very, very battle-tested football teams. Really going to be a tough matchup between the 2. I don't really have a winner in it. I think Tesoro is going to come out. They're the number 2 ranked team in the West Valley Division and one of the top ranked teams in Southern California in the Southern section. So I think they're going to have the ability to come out on top in that game. But Vista Marietta still, their quarterback, like we said, Kyle Williams, very good quarterback, did all sorts of damage to Canyon last week. And he's going to be well rested coming into this week, so that could create some fits. And then the final game of the playoffs is Great Oak versus El Toro. Just the West Valley Division we're talking about. We're not going to talk about the rest of the Southern section.
There's no point.
Because there's too many.
Yeah.
And we don't have that time.
Right.
And we're only interested in that West Valley Division because that's what Santa Clarita's in. So,
bringing it back to Santa Clarita, what do you think is going to happen at the Hart game?
I think Hart's going to lose. I think Upland's going to beat them. I think Upland's attack and defense is just too strong. You're not going to be able to. You're going to have to hold Upland down on offense, and they've shown the fact that they can score points. And yeah, Hart, very high-powered offense, but Upland's only allowed 4 touchdowns, like I said, twice, and to 2 very, very, very good schools. So I think that Upland's defense is going to be the story of the game. They're going to hold Hart under 3 touchdowns in the game, which is something that doesn't happen.
How do you think Brady White will do?
I think Brady White will have a good game, but I think he's going to be hit and knocked down quite a bit by the Upland defense, which we'll see how he can get back up. It's going to be his first real.
I don't think he's going to go down very easily.
I think he'll get knocked down quite a bit, though, and I think it's going to be his first real look at what college football is going to be like. And he's going to ASU. He's going to be playing in the big Pac-12. There's big boys in Pac-12.
And he does get sacked quite often. Last game, he got sacked quite a bit.
We'll really see. It's really up for grabs. I think the 2 squads that you're going to be looking at coming out in the West Valley Division going to the championship are going to be Mission Viejo, Upland. They've been kind of on a collision course for most of the year. Tesoro's very good. One of those 2 teams is going to play each other next week more than likely, but I think Upland will come out on top. As Tesoro beat them early on in the year, but I think Upland's they're on too much of a roll right now. And then down at the bottom of the bracket, Mission Viejo is they're on a 9-game winning streak.
Right.
I don't see. I think they have the easier road in the bracket, playing Rancho Cucamonga and then the winner of Great Oak and El Toro. So I think that's going to create a little bit easier road for them coming in. So it'll be interesting as we have a couple more weeks left, and we should be able to get you, another update on football in our next show, since right around championship time during that.
Hopefully, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Playoffs is always a fun time in the CIF section. So.
Well, thank you, Matt Robinson.
No problem.
Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Sports DNA.
Remember, No Shave November. Prostate cancer. I had the beard growing in. I got to get one last lick in on this.
Of course. I mean, November's almost over. So.
There you go.
Good. For Matt Robinson, I'm Alda Canepa.
And I'm Darren Inori.
Have a good night, everyone.